Welcome to episode 18 of That Dynasty podcast. I am your host, Matthew, and alongside Isaiah, we just want to welcome you to the episode that concludes That Dynasty podcast season 1. Super excited to have gone on this journey with everybody through an entire season inside the minds of a real life Dynasty fantasy football league, and kind of talk you through our thought process being in the league and managing teams ourselves respectively. Even though we did not win the championship this season, it was an awesome experience, and we're super excited to have kind of started this journey, and looking forward to continuing it as the years go on. Isaiah, what are your thoughts kind of on how this season went for you? Or for us, I should say.
What's that?
What was your thoughts on kind of how the season went for us embarking on this podcast journey?
Yeah, it was a good first year. It's a fun league. Like a lot of people we were with. I think I'm excited for year two, especially with the rookie draft coming up. It's funny, Matthew and I are recording right now. It's actually the national championship game is going on right now. But yeah, I'm excited. I think especially when it comes to like knowing people now, I feel like we kind of think we're all used to each other and know what pisses each other off, and when it comes to each other's personalities in our league. So I think we should be expecting a lot more, a lot less arguing and stuff here too. So I'm excited, but it's a good year. I'm had a lot of fun with the podcast, and yeah, hoping to keep it rolling through the summer and whatnot. So
Yeah, so gonna still put out some content obviously in the next couple of months, but there's not going to be weekly updates or anything like that. So it'll be more sporadic, and hopefully have some guests on, figure out some times that work for everybody to get together, and hopefully meet some people that haven't been on the podcast yet. I know we haven't heard officially from Seed and Power or Andy or King Cobb, so or any of the Sullivans. So if you guys are out there, you want to join the podcast at some point, please let us know when you're available. We'd love to get you on.
we
Uh,
haven't uh, we haven't heard from Team Joni one yet either. I don't
yeah,
know if that'll change, but or Team 11 actually.
Oh, Team 11. Well, that actually brings me into my next topic of league updates. But before we do get into that, if you haven't already, please go give us a follow on TikTok and on That Dynasty Pod. We would certainly appreciate following our content on there. We do put full videos up on YouTube as well. If you're listening to the podcast, we have that available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can watch the whole video on YouTube. And don't waste any time. Just go subscribe. We'll be putting out some awesome custom dynasty content. You know that you're going to want to watch, find out what our thoughts are on the rookie draft, how we prep for that. I'm super excited for all the rookies I'm going to be drafting this year for sure. I'm stoked about it. Um,
Hey man, Jacoby Myers was undrafted, man. There's always guys like that out there.
yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong about that. So that being said, let's take us into some league updates here. So we did have one league update, one league name change. Team GONI 1 has now changed his name to Team 11 because when we rolled the league over, he left.
No, that's not true. He is a gigantic Stranger Things fan. That's her name, right? 11.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. I'm not deep in the Stranger Things world. But no, you're right though.
He disappeared
He
upside down. So that would
yeah, he was yeah. Yeah, he is gone. He's no longer with us. Yeah, I think it was a shock to most of us. Didn't see that coming.
I didn't even see it
Respectfully, his
until today, to be honest with you. I don't know why I missed that.
oh yeah, we were talking about it yesterday. I made a joke that King Cobb's IR was probably worth more than his entire roster. Um, but yeah, sucks to see him go. Not sure why, but best of luck, and thank you for that great first round draft pick you gave me. So yeah.
This is true. It's possible that he got tired of listening to us, vote against him for the entire season. But it's also possible that he didn't realize we had a podcast, because apparently there are people out there who, even though we post about it every week, didn't realize. Um, And I thought, how could you possibly not realize that when I also didn't realize that we had lost a league member here. So apparently, DMs can get away from us. Messages can be missed, and I forgive you, Seed and Power. So,
Yeah, I
um,
just think it's wild. People never heard of us. Like we're the number one dynasty fantasy football YouTube video with host named Matthew and Isaiah, and the fact that no one had known that is a little shocking to me. But
you're not
we
wrong. It's a niche market.
yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, that does bring us to an interesting point of now that there's an opening in the team. If you're someone who listens to this podcast and you're not a part of the league and you would like to get in and be a part of the league, wow, hit us up. The team's actually not as bad as it sounds. To give you some ideas of kind of what was left behind here for Team 11 now, we have Jalen Hurts, Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, and David Montgomery for the Stars there at running back and
Oh,
quarterback.
you're
We also,
missing one more running back,
oh, who am I missing?
Javonte Williams on IR.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good miss. I did
Yeah,
forget
it is.
about that. So you got Joe Mixon, Javante, Montgomery, and Dobbins. So that's a pretty good core there at running back. You got Jalen Hurts at quarterback and Tua Tagovailoa on the bench. So two solid quarterbacks right there. If Tua continues to play next season. We got Dalton Schultz at tight end in a tight end premium league. And let's see here. We've also got, I forgot about this. He does have Khalil Herbert on the bench on the taxi squad as well. And Khalil Herbert is, if David Montgomery leaves in free agency, potentially starting running back for the number one overall pick in the Bears this next season. And then he's got at wide receiver, he's got Mike Williams, he's got Terry McLaurin, he's got Diami Brown, um,
Allen Robinson,
Allen Robinson, yuck,
Joshua Palmer,
Joshua
Gabe Davis,
Palmer,
Kobe
Jacoby
Myers.
Myers. Yep. Speaking of Jacoby Myers, um, so wide receiver is definitely like the weaker spot there, but still like can put out a formidable, roster for a 12-man league. The downside is that he traded away his 2023, all of his picks, and he only has a second round pick in 2024. So definitely, wasn't necessarily planning too far ahead when it comes to his roster. But the good news is, whenever you have to trade away a future pick, you also have to pay for that season. So great news for you if you are looking to join the league is that your 2024 and 2023 seasons are already paid for. You only be responsible for paying for your rebate buy-in. So let us know if you're interested, and we've got a team for you. I actually might have someone in mind. I might send it to one of my buddies who's been dying to get into the league. So we'll see if he's actually interested or if he's all bark no bite. But yeah, that's our league updates right now. Um, let's see. What do we want to talk about? We got a couple of things to talk about. Should we talk about the record-setting matchup that happened? Should we talk
Yeah,
about
let's talk about
tragedy?
the two playoff games we have. We'll start off with you want to start off with you and Mr. King Cobb.
I can do that, but I would be remiss if we didn't first take a moment to recognize, the tragic injury, that happened to Buffalo Bills safety, Damar Hamlin, on Monday night. Obviously, extremely tragic event that kind of brought everyone to its knees, and really was a scary time and just a lot of uncertainty, and honestly something that none of us will ever forget. But it's one of those things that we're really glad to see he's doing better. He was actually discharged today from the hospital, and just some really, really touching stories and moments to come out of that whole situation. And as much as we are Patriots fans, the loss to the Bills last week didn't feel quite as bittersweet, knowing the, you know, what they were coming off of. I honestly expected the Patriots to lose 100-0 based on how amped up we knew the Bills were going to be. So, um, obviously, Mar, we're really glad that you're doing much better. We're glad you're doing well. I know I prayed for you. I know our family and friends did that as well, and we're really glad that you're on the road to recovery. Now that that
Yeah,
moment has passed,
likewise.
um, we did have some unprecedented matchups this past week. Um, we've, I'm in a lot of dynasty leagues. I mentioned this, in the beginning, first couple episodes, but I've never ever seen something like this happen, especially in championship week. We had leagues going into championship week without winners, couldn't be determined, and it's all about these, you know, like I mentioned, people coming together from all over the country and kind of bonding over just support and love for the community and love for each other. And you can kind of see that play out even in the fantasy football realm. And so I've seen different people deciding on how they're going to, deal with the resolution of the finals, because chances are if you made it to the finals in this, fantasy football game we play, you probably had a player from the Bills or a player from the Bengals on your team. So there are a majority of championships that had unfinished matchups, including ours. And so there was about three different ways that it could have gone, and I've seen it gone all these ways. The two, you know, champions, we'll call them, um, decided to split the pot 50-50 for these leagues and just call it even and say, hey, let's just split the pot and let's go from there. And then however the points ended up falling, that's who will be crowned the quote unquote champion in the actual league itself. And like when it comes to dynasty, draft picks, things like that, the champion gets the last pick, but the actual earnings split 50-50. Another way that I've seen it run is they used manual calculations to take the week 18 performances from those players and put that in to fill in the gaps for week 17 and have that be the deciding factor. And then I saw another league where they decided to split the earnings of the league based on what the win percent for projections were at that time. So if you were projected to win by 65%, they'd split the winning 65-35. So kind of seen it done a few different ways. And then the final option was just accepting the points the way that they fell. And how it is, how it was, how it is, and that's the winner. You're in a couple of leagues, Isaiah. How did they end up determining them for you?
Yeah, a lot of it was split pot. The thing that actually that struck me the most how like um how everyone handled it. I felt like, or I feel like the fantasy football community handled it really well. I think in years past, and with some of the immaturity I've seen in other leagues, I've seen people were like, oh, I can't believe we're doing this. This is so much more important than a guy almost dying on the football field. And I felt like every single league I was in, everyone was like, oh my God, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out the fantasy football things when it happens. Like this is so much bigger than us playing this game, this fantasy game. And I was really, really impressed by that. But a lot of it was just like, hey, man, that was, watching that live made me sick. You want to just split the pot? Let's just split the pot. And that's almost what happened every single one of my leagues. And there was zero arguing, zero animosity. And that was a silver lining I gleaned. And it seemed like it was pretty large percentage of a lot of the fantasy football leagues were like that as well, what I saw online and stuff. So
Yeah, I also saw that a lot of fantasy football leagues decided to donate a lot of their winnings to Damar Hamlin's GoFundMe for he's raising money for a kids' toy drive, which I gotta go check to see where that's at right now. Because last I checked, it was over $8 million. So while I do that real quick, tell us, Isaiah, did you actually make it to the finals in any of your leagues this year?
no. So Matthew, do you want to fill us in now? Because I quickly answered that question, and I have nothing more to fill for that answer that you were trying to buy time with.
Well, let's take a look, shall we? Because um, oh, Andy just said he might totally have jumped on if he had seen this message sooner. Andy, we are still going. Want to join? Try to get some of the other league mates in here tonight. Let's take a look and see. GoFundMe. Oh, here we go. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So Damar Hamlin originally was trying to raise money for a community toy drive. He's just trying to raise $2,500 and has currently, as of this moment, raised $8,653,920. Um, just wow. Over
That's insane.
244.8 thousand donations.
Yeah, that's
So that was
unbelievable.
really cool to see, and obviously kind of talked about this, um, but like teams were donating some of their winnings in there. I can see like when I'm scrolling through the top donations to see like the something something fantasy football league, the so and so fantasy football league. That was like really touching. And really cool to see just like everyone kind of getting behind this cause. And like it's really awesome to scroll through the list. You can actually go by top donations and kind of see like who it is, who some of the top donations are. And like it was like, I'm not gonna lie, like definitely really moving to see, you know, um, the Jim Marseille and the Indianapolis Colts donated $25,003. A lot of people did they added the three at the end to match his name. So like Robert Kraft and the New England Patriots, 18,003. Um, I liked Matthew Stafford was in there donating $12,000. The Houston Texans, 10,003. Sean McVay donated it on his own. Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. Um,
No, I know Gronk did his usual thing.
Gronka was in there at 6,900. Um, let's see. Underdog Fantasy was in there. Luke Bryan even got in there. That's awesome. Mike Evans. It was cool to see like some of the rookies in there too. Like Sauce Gardner was in there donating $5,000. I saw Drake London in there. Trey Lance. A lot of people got in on the $3,333 tier just to match his number. But obviously, like I said, it was just really, really moving. So that was cool. I ended up buying a DeMar Hamlin jersey, or not a jersey, I should say, a shirt that like one of the shirt jerseys, to support that. And I did see that I know Fantrax was doing it, but all the proceeds from his jersey sales, which shot up to the number one jersey on all their websites, all the proceeds are going to like these charitable foundations that he has it kind of set up in his name. So it's a good cause. Cool to support that story. Let's talk about the matchups that actually went down, and let's talk about our league champion, or should I say, champions.
You want to do the your matchup first? You want to do the big dog one?
Yeah, we'll do we'll do let's why don't you talk through the big one? I'm gonna try to get Andy set up to come on and join us here because he just messaged back.
All right, sweet. Give me 1 second here. Let me pull up the results. But as all you guys remember, neither of us were in here. The two teams were Team State and Power and against Scold School, Darius, our commissioner. State and Power came in at 7-7 on the year, had two pretty big victories as the underdog, and came up against Darius, who had the second best record in our league this year, and the commissioner with his two stacked tight ends. And originally, State and Power was projected for about 130. Darius was projected for about 150. I don't remember everyone's pick. I know I picked State and Power to win in this matchup. Um, and Matthew picked Darius and was wrong. So just to remind everyone, this wasn't our original picks. This was just our, hey, this is the matchup for the fantasy Super Bowl, and I was right once again. So what am I up by, like 20 on you now or something? Or you just stop counting?
Yeah, actually, I think it was a mercy rule.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll do better next year. Yep. Not gonna I'm not
But
gonna
just
make a repeat.
but just so everyone's tracking, because of the whole DeMar Hamlin situation, Seed and Power and Darius decided to split the. Actually, I think they decided to split the pot even before, if I remember. Actually, I'm almost positive they made a decision they were going to split the pot way prior. But regardless, they decided to split the pot, so I don't think they really care too much about what happened. But Saden Power is the champion of the league. He had 142. Darius had 106. Although Darius he did start Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs during championship week. But Saden Power had a couple of pretty nice performances, and most notably, Mike Evans, who dropped almost 50 points with 10 receptions for 270 yards, 3 touchdowns for 48 points.
Savage.
AJ Brown gave him 20. C. Lamb gave him 20. Brock Purdy, Mr. Consistent, gave him 17 points. And he ended up with 140 and ended up as a champion of our league. And he also has the first pick in our rookie draft because of Angie. So congrats to you, Zayden Power. If you ever want to leave the league, please let me know so I can leave the league first. Create a fake name. You leave the league, and then I can take your roster. So, at me, Dougie.
That's probably the biggest compliment that we can give at that point. But yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be like looking back at like max points for like if they had started everyone correctly, Darius could have put up 157 and Seedon could have put up 189. So, looking at like what the bench players put up and things like that, definitely could have been something where it was a lot closer. But all in all, like I think they made the right decision because their matchup was so heavily favored with Bills players that it would have made a difference. All right, Andy is here. I'm going to let him in. Here we go. And can you hear us, Andy?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Fabulous, man. We're just breaking down Seed Power and Darius's matchup from last. Hey, there's his face.
Whoa, what a beard, bro. If I don't know what to shave, good God. All right. How do
well, I think we have to give up our title of most attractive guys in the league now. Sorry. Got a better beard than us, man. Well, welcome aboard. Sorry for the last minute invite. We just we were hopping on. We're like, all right, we'll see who else could wants to join, and voila, here we are.
This works. Right. I love the last minute spare of the moment kind of thing.
Absolutely. So we were just going through talking about Seed and Power and Darius's championship matchup. We were talking about the actual performances themselves, and then that's where you popped in. So are you super familiar with the Sleeper app, Andy? Have you used that before this league?
Nope. This is my first introduction to it. I like it, but sometimes it's like I have to think a little bit like, how do I get to that? How do I get to this one spot? I know I've been there before, and then it takes me a little while, but it does a lot. Yeah. I like the app.
I wish you had to know how to use Sleeper app when you accepted that Garrett Wilson for Cam Akers trade. That's besides the point.
That actually brings up a really embarrassing story. My first trade ever, I don't know if you guys remember, but I got totally roasted for it.
Oh my God.
I sent like a 24th round pick, and I thought I was receiving a 24th round pick. And it wasn't until I heard you guys talk about it on the podcast, like a long time later, that I realized I sent the 24th round pick along with Judy, I think, or something
Yes.
like
Oh,
that.
that was the terrible Thielen trade.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes so much more sense now, dude. I was like, why are you getting a worse receivers? I'm like, dude, you're such a Homer Viking fan, dude.
No, no, I mean, that was part of it. I avoided the Vikings completely in the draft. And I'm like, oh man, I kind of like to pull for some Vikings guys. And I saw Adam Thielen was on the trade block. And so I just figured I'd pick up Adam Thielen. I thought maybe they'd get close to the same production this year. But I didn't mean to send a pick to get him.
To be fair, though, you did redeem yourself with your second trade of the year when you traded CeeDee Lamb away for Ken Walker and a 2023 second. That must have felt pretty good to redeem yourself there.
I think so. I mean, it worked out in the end. You never really know, because as soon as you trade for somebody, they can get hurt or whatever. Hindsight's always 2020. It's kind of a coin toss either way.
Yeah, because you ended up turning that second round pick into the trade for Devontae Smith. So you basically traded it's a late 2023 second. So you basically got Ken Walker and Devontae Smith in that trade. And all you had to give up was CeeDee Lamb and Michael Carter. So I think that was actually a pretty good return on investment right there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Isaiah, that Akers for Wilson trade. I guess we'll see.
Hey man, Akers was picking it up, doggy, at the end of the year. So Akers is gonna come back refreshed next year. Who's throwing to Garrett Wilson next year? No idea. It could be one of us at this point. It could be Mike Glennon for all we know. Zach Wilson is a bum. He will never belong in that New York market. So
I heard a rumor that Derek Carr might be the next New York quarterback, or Jimmy.
Yeah, they do love their mediocre QBs in New York, so he would fit very well there.
What do you think, Andy? Any predictions on the next Jets quarterback?
I don't know. I like Derek Carr. He was always I always seemed to be a fan of his, even when he was playing bad, and I don't know why. He's probably did really well for me one year in fantasy, and so I've liked him ever since. But yeah, I think he's got some life left in him.
Oh yeah, he's great. He's totally the scapegoat for the Raiders. I mean, you probably seen the same thing too. Maybe the Vikings before with Cousins, where like no matter what happens in the playoffs, everyone just blames the QB, and that's always been the same thing with Derek Carr. Is like he'll be like above average QB, and like the rest of his team will let him down, and everyone's like, "Ah, oh, Derek Carr." I mean, I live in Vegas, so I hear it all the time. He's really not that bad. He's literally the definition of an average QB. I mean, is he worse than Mac Jones, Matt? Like, probably not.
No, he's better than Mac Jones, but that's a very low bar. When I went to the Patriots game the other day, which we haven't recorded since then, I don't think. Patriots versus the Dolphins, and they had their third string quarterback at that point, Skylar Thompson, I think it was, who was in there playing, or Tompkins, and he was making these throws that were just like terrible throws, and almost getting picked off and like off to the side. And people around me were making comments like, "Oh, see, at least it's not just us making those throws." And I was thinking in my head, yeah, but what's our excuse? That's our first string quarterback. This is their third guy up, and he's making these throws. And then over here, we're like, oh, we got the same thing.
Yeah, Skylar Thompson, I think, was a 6th or 7th round draft pick. Mac Jones was a highly touted Alabama quarterback who was like the 13th or 14th pick. But we'll move on from this.
All right. So third place matchup was myself, Buster Kobe, aka $96 Fab Bids, versus King Cobb. The matchup itself was, I would say, it was close. Close to being my favorite matchup of the year. But suffice to say, I ended up scoring pretty well. It was 186 to 92 for the final score. King Cobb had a valiant effort. Unfortunately, and I was looking at his roster, he didn't have anybody playing in the game that was impacted by the delays. So when he put up 92 points, that was just his team. Just Cobbin, just classic Cobb. You know, I was gonna make a king like a corn on the cob reference, but I couldn't think of a good one.
Yeah, let's move on from your corny jokes, Dougie.
There it is.
Yeah.
So I put up 186 points. I did look up into the top scores of the week, of the year, and so far for the league, that is the most points scored on a single week. So I was pretty stoked about that. Definitely not stoked that I had to face Seed and Power last week and not. I think it was Andy. It was you that got eliminated. The first round of the playoffs, right? I was like, oh man, if I could have only faced, and oh no, it wasn't me. It was Isaiah who wanted Andy's spot into the playoffs. That's what it was.
Yeah, I've been like secretly pissed at Andy for like a month and a half now because he beat me. He made the playoffs by like 20 points over me. So it's fine. It's not personal.
Not personal.
Just don't let it happen again next year.
So from actual performance perspective, had a couple of people with good games. Sean Watson put up 21 points. Aaron Jones had 13 points. And then we had Austin Eckler with 32 points. Chris Godwin, 20 points. He went 9 for 9, 120 yards, and even had a fumble in there and still ended up with a great game. Tyreek Hill, 15 points. Logan Thomas, almost 15 points. Mari Cooper went 3 for 4 with 105 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is an insane stat line. Devontae Adams went 7 for 11 with 153 and 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs defense put up 9 points, and I was like, oh, that couldn't have possibly been any better. But no, Tom Brady on my bench with a quiet 40 points. Could have started him and decided to sit him against Carolina, and I could have almost been over 200 points if I had started him on the bench. But suffice to say, that was a really, really good week for me, and definitely was sour to not be in the finals championship round. Bringing home a #1 championship with the high score of the year, that would have been pretty epic. But it's like they say, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And thankfully, I still got some type of a payout for it. It was a good year for King Cobb. Injuries really struck him hard. Justin Fields left half, I think, in the third quarter with an injury. Put up 15 points. Saquon Barkley only put up 7 points. Zay Jones, 3 for 5 with 24 yards, only 5 points. Cortland Sutton, 8 points. And Njoku, only 3 points on 1 reception. James Conner got injured, 14 points that he put up, still had a decent game. And then Leonard Fournette put up only 8 points in the blowout victory against Carolina. The Seahawks defense did really well, though. They actually had 17 points against the New York Jets in that game. But, yep, that's how the season ended up finishing. And, yeah, I took third place. We had split champions. They decided to split the pot and split the title of champions, which I thought was admirable to do, although sharing the trophy is going to be a pain in the neck. Where would you have put your trophy, Andy, if you had won it?
I did not expect at the beginning of the playoffs for Seed and Power to go all the way. But then Darius's team kind of started putting up some I don't know, just some crappy numbers, and it was just trending not in a good direction. And then Seed and Power just kept way overshooting his projected totals every week. And like by round 2 of the playoffs, I'm like, Seed and Power could definitely win it. I mean, if I had to pick between Seaton and Darius, I'd probably say Seaton Power showed up in the playoffs, even though Darius showed up in the regular season. I'd probably give it to Seaton Power.
Yeah, it's almost like as someone who had divorced parents when I was a kid, I feel like they're just gonna have, one's gonna have on the weekends and maybe, bring it up to the cabin for the summer or, winter break and whatnot. But we'll see
The
how they
alternate
make it work.
holidays.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. Next year I'll have sole custody of the child, so we won't have to.
Yeah,
Well,
with your roster has an average age of 34 years old, but
I have one team that's even worse than this team, and in another league, and my team name in that league is AARP. So I may have to steal that for this league at some point next season.
well, your average age is probably like 28, but you have Tom Brady, so it brings it from like 28 to like mid 30s. So get Brady off your roster and you'll be all right.
Yeah, that was I guess it was a good pickup, but didn't end up helping me anyways. I did message GONI 1 to find out why he left the league. Did you see that, Andy? Did you see he left the league?
I did. That seemed really random. He just wasn't involved a lot in the conversation all season, though, was he?
Yeah, wasn't involved in conversation. Wasn't really involved in winning either. So,
No.
Sorry, he left the league. I can talk shit now, right?
I mean, it's like they said, betting the under on Broncos games was like the safest bet all season. Betting the L on Team GONI 1's games was the safest bet, I think, all season.
Outside Angie.
Well, I mean, that's true. That's true. He did message me a couple of times. I was trying to pick up a couple of players from him at the trade deadline. And he basically was like, I was like, hey, like, do you have an interest in moving Jalen Hurts or Tua? I was like willing to move. It ended up being like with a move I made for Watson, basically. That I was willing to give up like 23 second and Carr or Stafford. And I was, probably willing to give up more if it was Hurts. But he's like, I gave up more than that to get him before the season started. Hurts is a top 3 and Tua isn't far behind. It's just not enough for either. And so I was like, what about, Carr plus my 2024 first? And he's like, honestly, it seemed like I gave up a lot, but now it seems like I won that trade at the beginning of the year. I'm happy with my investment. You'd have to give up more than what I paid to get him. So the conversation that he said that he was saying there just seemed like he didn't give any indication that he was going to be leaving. It was weird. But
I have a few trade proposals, but that's about it.
No conversations with him.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
Nope.
Well, I mean, maybe he just didn't realize there was a podcast, If he had known, perhaps he would have, or maybe it's our fault. Maybe he said there's too much pressure. Every trade being analyzed by the experts.
Yeah, dude, King Kong called me he called me like a guru or something. I think he was being sarcastic. And I was like, bro, the only thing I'm a guru getting like big fat L's in this league because I like to think we're self-aware because like we have this podcast, we talk about the trades and stuff and we dump on people. But I hope like everyone knows, like everyone in our league, like I'm extremely sarcastic, obviously not personable. I don't know. I mean, dude, I shit on my Garrett Wilson trade to Cam Akers every other week. You make fun of me for giving like half my future up for goddamn Alberto. So I like to think we're a little bit self-aware.
When you dropped Aguilar today, I saw you say bum right afterwards, and I expected to sign in there and see that you dropped Alberto.
I can't. No. I promise you, for as long as this dynasty league holds, Alberto is going to be a part of my. He could be retired. I'm still keeping Alberto.
It's funny because he actually had a decent week like 2 weeks ago. I think he caught a touchdown.
I noticed you were awfully quiet about that. I noticed.
We didn't record that week, but touche.
Yeah.
We're
going to talk about Cam Akers the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He did rush for more yards than Garrett Wilson had in receiving yards last week, so there's that.
Too bad he couldn't done it earlier in the year when I needed him, but
He always
that your favorite trade?
performs at the end of the year, and then beginning of the next year, he's like getting third string reps.
or injured, unfortunately. But we'll see. Next year's the year.
Okay. So let's go into some of these questions here for Seed and Power, and then I could probably re-ask some of them to you as well, Andy, while you're here. Some of them that aren't specific to winning the league. But Isaiah, do you have the text up with the questions that I had sent?
Yeah, I've got the yeah. So the first thing we're gonna ask him as the winner, so he gets special treatment here. What was his favorite draft pick on the year that he made?
So he said that his favorite draft pick was easily Jalen Waddle. He said he's actually a really crazy fan of his in real life. And he said it was so much fun being able to cheer for him in fantasy football as well. There was a lot of speculation in the off season around is Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill both going to be able to perform, in this environment? So I could definitely see, I'm trying to pull up where he actually drafted him right now.
Third round.
Did he go before Tyreek? Yes. So he went, interesting. So he went Debo, then he went Waddle back to back. And I wonder if he would go back and redo that trade instead of Debo, pick someone like T. Higgins or Tyreek Hill. But I guess it worked out. It's not a bad pick for third round. I'd take Jalen Waddle in the third round.
Okay.
Andy, what about you? What was your favorite pick?
That's tough to say. Shoot. I think the way TJ Hawkinson worked out, of course, I drafted him. He was playing for the Lions, and then he got traded to Minnesota. And then I think his production went up a little bit, but also he's just a lot more fun to watch since he's on my team. So I think that's probably my favorite trade. Yeah. Or my favorite draft, I mean.
Yeah, someone I think Trevor put in the chat that he was tight end 2 on the year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm not sure if that's true, but threw that in there. But regardless, he was fantastic this year.
Well, I also really loved that you picked Christian McCaffrey at the 108. So I feel like based on how he actually ended up performing this year and getting traded to San Francisco, that was a steal. I think he should have gone much higher than 108. And you drafted one spot ahead of me, so I'm sure that there was some sniping going on in the draft. Had he fallen to me at 109, I would have taken him over over Kyle Pitts for sure. But it's kind of funny because I ended up taking Kyle Pitts over Austin Eckler. However, then ended up having to trade for Eckler later and gave up even more. So I guess I'm the sucker here in this scenario, both ways.
Yeah.
All right. What's the second question, Isaiah?
What was the trade that really changed everything for him?
So the trade that changed everything, he says, was the CeeDee Lamb trade, which is ironic. He said that when I got the offer for him, it was with the 1 hour time limit of the trade deadline. He said, I made no mistake on accepting it right away. Not only did it carry my team in the playoffs, but I plan on him carrying me for years to come.
And that was Darius, right?
Yeah, that was that, and we agreed with him on that one. That was a great trade for him. I don't know why Darius made that move. I didn't think it was a super solid. I honestly, that might have cost him the championship, to be honest with you, that trade.
That one hurts.
He said that his close second though was getting Angie's first round pick. He said, "This is horrible, but it's
Oh my god.
this is great." He's like, I had targeted her early on when I saw how her draft was going. He said, was pumped. Pretty sure I called all my fantasy friends and gloated about that trade a bit. So, yeah, that was a robbery right there for Bijan Robinson. It's probably who's going to end up going at that spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when this year were you most down on your team and your chances to win?
Oh, we got to ask Andy what his favorite trade was.
Oh yeah. If you say
Don't
Cam
worry.
Akers, if you say Cam Akers, Garrett Wilson, Matt, make me the host so I can kick him off this immediately.
I wasn't gonna say that, but it crossed my mind. I think my favorite pickup or my favorite trade this year, I think, was picking up Devontae Smith from Darius for Carter and a 23rd second round.
That's a steal.
Yeah, it was a great trade. Solid move because Carter's going to be done when Brees Hall's back. So it was really, really, really.
It's pretty wild how good of a roster Darius could have had, man. If he just kind of stayed the course a little bit more, he could have, after making the trade for CD, and then he could have kept Devontae and just kind of dealt with his running back situation. Did he like give up like another second for like Darrell Henderson or something?
Yep. Yeah, he traded away the second that he got for Devontae Smith. So, yeah, and then Darrell Henderson got cut like a week later. It's possibly the worst trade I've ever seen. But
the Noah Smith was it Noah Brown just knocked on my door.
Noah Brown.
Noah Brown for Mike Evans.
Oh my god. What was the next question?
When he was most down on his team and his chances to win.
Yeah, so he said that Jonathan Taylor and Lamar Jackson constant injuries. He felt that his team was unstoppable mainly because the consistency that they would provide all year. But he was really leaning on taking CMC despite the age, but he went with the youth. He said, I still have regrets about that, not only in this league, but in 3 other leagues that I had Jonathan Taylor in. Fun fact, I won 3 out of the 4 leagues with him anyways. So humble brag.
Jeez.
But apparently Seton Power is just good at drafting because he won
for the rest of us, though.
3 out of 4 leagues where he drafted Taylor over CMC. And I mean, that was the wrong pick, but he still made it work. That one doesn't really count for you, Andy, because you didn't win. So when were you so down on your team? Probably when I didn't make it out of the first round of the playoffs.
If it makes it feel any better, we're all in the same boat here.
Listen here, keep your mouth shut. 30 points. All right. What's the next question?
What's your biggest advice to someone starting a dynasty league for the first time?
All right. So he says, don't be the guy that tries to win in 4 years. Be the guy who wins now. You like to rebuild, do it after a title. Solid advice. What about you, Andy? What do you got for someone who's looking to join a dynasty league for the first time? What would you say?
Man, I guess that was me this year. So if I were to give advice to myself at the beginning of the year, is just you see a lot of transactions happening at the very beginning. Like everyone's just kind of itchy to trade and everything, and you kind of catch that bug. But you don't really have to. I mean, you can keep all of your draft picks. You don't have to trade for anybody. You don't have to go crazy on some elaborate draft where you trade down and you get a million 4th round picks. I think just draft like you normally would. And I think the other thing that I like to do that I catch myself doing, sometimes I have to try to stop myself, is a guy will be really good for me in a previous year, but that doesn't mean he's going to be great the next year. Or if he did horrible for me last year, that doesn't mean he's going to be great this year. So I really like to look and see what the experts are saying, because I can definitely have a lot of bias. And so I think just doing a little bit more research, trying to keep your bias out of the equation as much as you can.
That is definitely a good call out there for sure. His bias sleeps right in, and it's recency bias too. So like, not willing to sell a player because you're like, oh, he's finally taken off, or like not willing, to accept a trade. It's just like it seeps into at all points of the season. It's absolutely crucial to understand why something's happening, to really give context to it. Like, does this player really suck, or is their offensive line so bad? And that's why Tom Brady can't get a pass off. You know what I mean? It's like things like that. Like,
So I agree with what. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go for it, man.
I agree with what Stephen Power said. I would say though that I'm actually excited about building, and not necessarily just trying to win it all this year, because a lot of my trades are trying to get younger. I just think it's like a little bit more. I like it because I feel like I'm doing more to make it happen, right? Rather than like, okay, I drafted my team. Oh, I got lucky. I did well this year. It's more like, I'm making these trades and making these draft picks so that in 3 years from now, I'm going to have like an absolute monster where everyone on my team is like 25, 26. And we've talked about this before. There's no right way to win. But for this league, in my first one, I just thought it'd be really cool if I took like it'd be cool if I win this year, but I want to build for the future. And maybe that doesn't work out for me. At the end of the day, it's all about championships. And, if you win one the first year and I don't win one in the next 5, then obviously, he's right, whatnot. But
Yeah.
different ways to skin the cat. So.
Yeah, and I think, like, to your point, like something that I learned first when I first started was like, if you're in a tight end premium league, don't overvalue the tight end position. Like, yeah, they give you extra points, but that doesn't mean that they're like crazy more valuable than your other players. And so, like, I went in a couple of startups like that I'm still in, and I'm still recovering from this, but I like drafted, it was like Kelsey Kittle round 1 and 2. Now this was like 3 years ago. And it was like, that was like, I did, it was about my strategy and everything. I was like, I want to draft late. I know Kelsey will fall to the end of the first round, and I'm going to Kelsey Kittle. And this is in super flex leagues where you have to have 2 quarterbacks. And like, it was just a mistake that I'm still recovering from. And then I would end up trying to trade him later on, and I get a lower return. And I didn't understand why. I was like, it's a tight end premium league, but that'd be one thing. Definitely, like, don't overthink league scoring. Just understand how to properly value it, assess where you need to be at, and use that to your advantage. But next question.
How does he weigh future versus now when measuring your team? Kind of tied to the last question.
Say that again.
How does he weigh his team future versus now when measuring his team?
All right, let me just see here. I'm just responding to Dan, who may try to join us if we're still going in the next few minutes. All right, so I think you might have skipped a question because I'm trying to read his orders here.
I did not. Last one was, what's your biggest advice? And then it's, how do you weigh future versus now?
Oh, okay. So gotcha. I gotcha. That was my bad. So he says, I try not to look further than 1 to 2 years. He says, I don't believe in not trying to win at all costs. I had trades out there for the first overall pick, right at the, what did he say? Oh, he had trades out there to send away the first overall pick at the deadline to try and booster for the playoffs. He hadn't clinched yet at the time. He said, lucky for me, though, I still have the pick and the trophy. So he's like, try not to look too much further than that 1 to 2 year window. Don't sell out at all costs to try and win. Give yourself kind of a gap there, which, I can definitely relate to that, because when I was looking at my win now, window, I definitely didn't want to trade away my 2024 firsts. I knew, like, I'm okay with trading away 2023 because most of the assets that I recovered or I have, I was deep enough that these guys are going to carry over into next season. But I didn't want to try to move away from 2024 because if anything goes downhill, injuries, these guys retire, they're done. I want to be able to start my rebuild 2024 and have that opportunity there. So I like that advice.
Yeah, totally.
All right, what's the next question?
Who does he think his biggest competition is when it comes to taking back-to-back titles?
Rudy says Andy and Isaiah.
Hey,
No, actually, it's not what he said.
God damn it! God damn it!
He said I prefer teams with first round picks, so he didn't pick me. No, he said Darius, King Cobb, and you, referring to myself. It said it's biggest competition for
Okay, next question. We're
title
done.
next year. Okay. Listen, he answered it on me. Well, we can kind of stop at this, Isaiah. What do you think power rankings right now going into next season? We'll go with you, Isaiah, first, and then Andy. But like top three, what do you guys think if you had to rank?
Me.
That's 1, 2. Okay.
No, I mean obviously Satan Power is one, but I think it's him and everybody else. Like his gap is that big. Having the number one pick, he's just gonna add Bijan Robinson to that roster is not fair. And then yeah, so him, you, and then yeah, like Darius, King Cobb, myself, maybe Andy, maybe Dan. Just depends on how everyone's draft goes and how everyone's like second year players do. If Garrett Wilson goes off next year's WR1, if Jameson Williams goes off next year, Jahan Dotson, or I don't know, whoever the example is, that completely changes your roster. So.
Yeah. What about you?
But not Team 11.
Not Team 11.
Well, I was going to say whoever takes over that Team 11 is probably going to be number one. We have to start hyping them up because we have to
right.
we have to sell that position. Remember? No, I definitely think probably both of your teams will be contenders next year. I would say top 5. I think Darius is in the top 5. I think Seed and Power could do really well again next year. I would say my number one would be My number one would be 96 Fab Bids.
Oh.
My number 2 would be King Cobb. And number 3, I have to go Seedon again.
Yep. Solid. I have the same top. Well, I have Seedon number 1, I think, because I forgot that he has on his injured reserve Jonathan Taylor. So he's got Jonathan Taylor and I think we talked about him in the last podcast, but he has Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle, Mike Evans, George Kittle, Lamar Jackson, and then Deebo Samuel somehow fitting in there. And then he's got the 101 overall pick to bring in a stud running back. So I think I got to go with him as number 1. And then number 2, I think is between myself, just because I have a lot of those like proven veteran guys. I think Deshaun Watson could really step it up with a full season. So I like my odds there, but I really don't like my tight end position. So we'll see how that shakes out. I don't know if that's going to be enough to compete with Seed and Power if I don't have a good tight end, which is ironic because of what I just told you guys about my advice that I learned from my other startups. Darius has lost a lot.
Bro. Sit for you, doggy.
Yeah. Darius has lost a lot of his team. I don't know what happened to his roster, but I don't feel good about his team anymore. When he first started, I was like, man, this team is just savage and like insane. But like looking at it now, like the Josh Allen and Dig stack is great and the Kelsey Andrews, but he has hardly any future picks. He's got one first round pick, but he's got no running backs. Other than well, I mean Elliott and Swift, but it feels like he doesn't have any running backs aside from that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're not even sure we're gonna get out of those two next year. Zeke will be a year older, and Swift he's great, but I think he's always hurt.
Yeah. I actually really like Andy's team with Christian McCaffrey, Ken Walker, Olave, Smith, Hawkinson, Wilson. Like that's a really, really solid group of starting right there. Then you got George Pickens, Greg Dulcich, Kyler Murray coming back. And then
I was going to say the quarterback. I've got a quarterback problem. I feel like with Kyler Murray.
They just fired their head coach today. That could be a huge win.
I hope it is.
Because I think that Cliff Kingsbury was really holding them back. But we'll see.
Yeah, he sucks.
You got Zach Wilson, though. So the future's bright.
He's got the Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson stack.
The Wilson to Wilson. You just need to pick up Kenny Pickett, and you'll have Pickens to Pickett, or Pickett to Pickens, too. These are the best stacks.
I wouldn't mind that. He was looking pretty good at the end of the year.
Yeah. That might be a good buy low trade target. All right, what's the next question that we got?
Well, going back, is there a move you made that he wish he hadn't?
He said, ask me this. Yeah, asked me this 1 week ago, and he said it would have been the Evans trade. But how can I regret it now? He said, I'm in so many leagues, I can't remember some of the moves I make, but I do remember Darius sent me an exploding offer pre-draft, and I regretted not accepting it. I just don't remember what it was, he says. But that's fair. The Evans trade pops up 1 week, wins him a championship, and that's it, I think that was me. I think I moved Evans, and we talked about it on the show. I feel like I gave up a little bit too much for it, but I didn't want to have Evans and Godwin on the same team, and I'm glad I didn't, because trying to decide who to start during that whole stretch when they were both a disaster would have been too much for my small heart to handle. Andy, was there any moves that you made that you wish you hadn't?
Or you hadn't?
I mean, I think the Thielen for Judy trade, obviously at the very beginning of the year, my first trade ever. I'd probably not make that trade again, or try to get a little bit more for Judy. But as it turns out, who would have thought Russell Wilson would have been so absolutely piss poor this year? I think the guy's way underperformed his capability. I mean, he could, with a little bit better of a quarterback, or maybe Denver moves away from him, or they move away from Russell Wilson or whatever, but he could definitely end up in a better scenario. And I think Judy could be a really good wide receiver. So that's probably the one that I regret personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair call out. And plus, like, they might be getting, I saw that Denver's trying to interview Sean Payton for head coach. And I know like Russell looked pretty good at the end of the year there. In comparison, once they got rid of, their former head coach, who didn't even make it the first full season, I think he was really an issue.
Judy was balling at the end of the year, dude.
Yeah. And then I think they won the last game, didn't they? They played spoiler. I don't remember who they were facing. Rams, maybe?
I thought they played like the Chiefs one of the last weeks.
They played the Chiefs. They almost beat them 2 weeks ago. I don't remember who they played this week, but all right, what's the last question? We got 2 questions left.
What's next for Seating Power, I guess? That's a question.
Yeah, what's next for Seed and Power? He says, well, the wife and I are planning a romantic trip to the Dominican Republic, and I'm sure I'll spend most of the winnings on dinners while we are there. So safe travels. Hope you make it back safely, Seed and Power. My final question to him, I had asked him, I said, you think you're going to actually change your team name once this next season? And he's like, I don't know if I could. I'll probably just leave it as it is, maybe add a trophy to his name, he said. But
Nice.
like stud right there. But thanks for joining us and hopping on here, Andy. Certainly appreciate taking time out. You got like 30 seconds to say something if you got anything else you want to say.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun. I think I've watched every single episode. So I'm a huge fan. I actually think I was the first subscriber on YouTube. So when you guys are rich and famous, remember me.
Oh,
Could get you
royalties, dog. This man got royalties.
So no, thanks for having me, and I hope to be on here next year, maybe after a championship win.
Absolutely.
Or maybe after tanking, who knows?
Yes. Andy, what are your playoff predictions for the year?
All right. Well, the Vikings start off playing the Giants. I think that's a win for the Vikings. It's in their home stadium. Let me see
Let's go.
Yes. You guys are huge Vikings fans, I hear.
Always
my entire life. I remember crying when Tavares Jackson was drafted and Mr. Christian Ponder.
I'm wearing Vikings underpants right now. Randy Moss.
I have a Dante Culpepper tattoo underneath my big toe.
All right. Well, let's see. I'm looking at the rest of the games here. So Green Bay didn't make it, huh? Which means Seattle's in.
Womp womp.
In that last game, Aaron Rodgers just did not look very good.
I also saw that he didn't give up his jersey to somebody who asked him for it. I think it was Jamal.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm going to want to hang on to this, he says.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
and
gone.
then the whole camera crew just followed him out of the stadium as if he's never going to play another football game.
That could be. He could retire.
So if you retire, how does that work? Like, does Green Bay still owe you all that money? I would assume not,
Negative.
Right?
Nope.
Yeah, but he also can't just sign with somebody else. He'd have to get traded if he's still under contract and he comes back.
Gotcha. Okay.
So like I think the coach for the Saints retired, but if he comes back to coach whatever team he wants to like go to, will have to give some sort of compensation back to the Saints if it's within the next 2 years.
Gotcha.
So we got Seahawks in San Francisco. Who are you taking?
San Francisco for sure. We got Cowboys and Bucks. Cowboys take that pretty easily.
Yep.
Jags and Chargers.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say Jags because they just seem to turn it around at the end of the year, and I think they're getting good at the right time. And I like their quarterback. So Bengals and Ravens. I'm gonna go Bengals, and Bills beat Dolphins.
No, that's pretty solid for this first round here. Isaiah, you have the same thing, or you got anything else different?
I think about roughly the same. I think I have Chargers over the Jags. But my final pick for the year is the Bills win the entire thing. Just think it'd be a great story. Makes too much sense. That team's balling right now. Yeah, I think Bills win it all.
I think the Bills definitely have the Damar Hamlin thing going on, so they have the motivation to win, and they definitely have a lot, going behind them there. But they have shown some weaknesses. They almost got beat by the Patriots in their awful offensive scheme this past week. So that's definitely concerning. And one second here, let me just send this little link to a little surprise guest, and then we'll see if they come on. So I definitely think the Vikings are going to beat the Giants. Giants have kind of fallen off, but I really like the foundation the Giants are laying. I just think the Vikings do need to make it to the next round of the playoffs. Again, been a lifeline Vikings fan, so always going to root for them. We got the Bengals beating the Baltimore Ravens, or should I say the Baltimore Crows, because they've just been eating crow lately. Just absolutely garbage team. And then speaking of garbage teams, Cowboys going to beat the Bucks because they're absolute garbage. San Francisco, I think.
And Cowboys aren't garbage?
You don't think the Cowboys? You think the Cowboys are garbage?
They got whooped by the freaking Sam Howell last week, dude. Dak's been awful the last 4 weeks, bro.
Yeah, but they didn't need to win. They already had it locked up. That wasn't a try hard.
Doggy.
I mean, you could say Tampa Bay got whooped by Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, I'm not arguing that, but I'm just saying the Bucks are more of a crap team than the Cowboys have played the last couple. Ooh, I don't know.
I don't actually know this answer, but did they pull their starters? Did the Cowboys pull their starters?
No, they were playing Dak the entire game.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Sam Howell, QB1. I do think that if Tua's back this week, the Miami Buffalo game would be interesting. But if not, Miami doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. I don't know how they made it in.
7 teams.
That's like practically like having a bye week, back-to-back weeks. I actually like Jacksonville as well. So, I know it's not probably the go-to pick, but I actually really like Jacksonville. It's going to be a similar situation to like the Titans last year. What was it that lost to Tennessee last year? Oh, I remember Tennessee came off the bye and lost to the Bengals. That's what it was. But yeah, I think Jacksonville's gonna have a decent stretch. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Why am I blanking on which two teams are on bye?
The Chiefs and the
yeah.
It's the Eagles on the NFC side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do think the Eagles are going to take it, and I think it's going to be Eagles in San Francisco in the championship game. I think the Eagles are going to win. And then on the other side, I think we're going to see Buffalo, Cincy, and I think Joe Burrow takes them back-to-back in the playoffs. But could be wrong. We'll see. But yeah, that wraps it up for this episode of That Dynasty podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and supporting us and watching, on a weekly basis or catching up all at once at the end of the season. If you discover us during the off season, welcome. We're super excited to have you as part of the SKOL Dynasty League family. And, as we begin season 2 and prepping through the rookie draft, I'm pretty excited to actually have conversations where we talk about our rookie draft, especially if we are doing it with 24-hour timelines, 24-hour picks for the rookie draft. We could actually do potentially some live stream content, maybe on YouTube. We'll see, what that looks like, but some exciting stuff coming up, and hopefully you guys are along for the ride. If you haven't already, please go subscribe to us on YouTube. We have our first subscriber here. He says he doesn't regret it so far. So, appreciate that support. And if you guys want to go do the same, that would be awesome. Subscribe on YouTube. We also are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts as well. In case you're working, you're hanging out, high up in a crane somewhere, and you need to listen to a podcast because you can't watch the YouTube video that week. we want to make sure that we have options for you.
Can I just say this real quick? Imagine being hundreds of feet up in a crane and listening to two dudes talk shit about your fantasy football trade and still being good enough to come on your show. That's a good man, bro.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. No cranes, but we were hanging off the side of the building that day. But yeah, it's fun. I still listen to it on YouTube. Just have the phone in my pocket, and it's a good way to use up an hour or so, which is about one drop.
Oh
man, Andy.
Oh snap!
Hey.
Oh snap!
Who we all got here?
Well, Dan has entered the chat.
I did. How you guys doing? I apologize. I've spent zero time getting ready today. So
listen, I think Isaiah's taken zero time to get ready any day. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's not really my MO.
I was just on a bedroom floor with an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. So, real highlight for me. So
yeah, that's ideal. Now you gotta kick back, have a couple cold ones, watch the championship game. That's currently a blowout right now. And are you a college football guy?
Depends on the season. A couple of years ago, I used to be more into when the Badgers were good. Now I just, I don't know. They keep stretching everything out. College is getting old. Everyone's getting contracts for money and everything like that. I don't know. 8, 12, college team playoff. I mean, they're just changing up so much from what I had growing up. So hard to keep up.
That's a fair point.
And pretty much every good team outside of TCU is in the SEC right now. So, and Ohio State, but so.
Well, we were just wrapping up with our playoff bracket predictions here for the NFL playoffs. I'll do rapid fire for this week's NFL matchups if you want to give us who you think is gonna take it here. Okay.
All right. Chiefs and Niners are the only. No, go through them.
Chiefs and Niners. So we got Seattle and San Francisco.
I mean, Niners.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in here is a Seahawks fan. Actually, I bet Team GONI 1 was probably Seahawks.
Before we continue our Team 11, what is are you a Vikings fan as well, Dan?
No, I'm a Packer fan.
You're one of those. Ooh,
yeah, actually.
Ooh.
So tonight was a little late of a bedtime because I went to a funeral for a coworker of mine, and he was a celebration of life. He was a huge Bears fan, and one of the pictures they show was from when the Bears played the Packers at Lambeau, 24-23, like the Bears blew a big lead, I think. And that he was actually on national TV, just like sitting there, like stunned because they just blew the game.
Oh, man.
And they showed the picture, and like some of his friends got together and made like yard signs with his face on them and put them in his yard and stuff. So, yeah. Viking fan, Bear fan, or Viking fan, Packer fan, cool. Patriot fans, all right. But no, as long as no one's a Bears fan. So
listen, I don't think we got any Bears fans, so we're good. The number one overall pick, though. So
would never subject myself to that. Absolutely not.
God, that was the best thing Lovey ever did for the Bears.
Yeah.
That Texans win on the way out the door. I mean,
yeah, that was what a brutal victory.
Yeah.
Okay, round 2, Jacksonville versus Chargers.
Boy, I mean, the Chargers have been good lately, but it's hard to go against. I mean, you look what the Chargers have. If everyone stays healthy, which they didn't last game, it's hard to think that they're not the more talented team. So I'm going Chargers.
Wow. Okay, so we're split here because Andy and I went with Jacksonville, and Isaiah took the Chargers too. So,
I mean, the Jaguars have been good this past 6-7 games. I mean, they've been really good, but boy, if the Chargers are healthy, how do you go against Allen, Williams, Keenan? I'm sorry, Eckler, and
that's true.
I mean, some of those defensive guys, I just think that they're the better team.
That's true. I do love me an underdog story, but I don't think Jacksonville would make it. I don't think either of those teams is going to make it all the way. So it's more of a buying time situation.
Yeah.
Buffalo versus Miami, aka bye week number 2.
Yeah, Buffalo. I mean, Tua. What's the over under on Tua's concussions? I mean, gotta be at least 2, right?
Yeah, they didn't put that man in the booth next year. Have him be an analyst at this point.
Yeah, maybe they'll knock him a couple more times and he'll start throwing right with his right hand. It's like something's wrong out there. He's lining up on the wrong side.
Pray for 2 signs coming next week.
Yeah. Minnesota and the Giants.
What time?
He doesn't want to say it.
What time is the game? Is it prime time?
What version of Kirk are we getting?
This is 4:30 Eastern time.
I have bet against subpar Giant quarterbacks in the past, and they seem to do well in the playoffs. For some reason, Eli's got 2 Super Bowl wins. Like,
okay,
the Vikings are the better team. I think everyone would agree with that. But like, I don't know, the Giants sometimes just win playoff games that they shouldn't. And yeah, who am I actually going to call?
Make a lot of Vikings
I just
fans
don't think
mad.
I know, and I'm trying not to be a troll because really, like, you know what, 12-5, whatever. But like this Giants team, like they're not very good. Like I couldn't even name 2 receivers at this point, probably Slayton and I don't know who's on the practice squad this week, but I'm gonna say we're gonna go Vikings. They're at home. They got it.
Do it. SKOL for life.
I don't have a lot of faith in that one though. Sorry, guys.
Okay. That'll be that one. If it goes the other way, you're gonna be like, I knew it. I know I should.
No, I could go back and forth on that one because like as much is it me wanting the Vikings to shit the bed, or is it the fact that I feel like they're gonna shit the bed? So I don't know.
Fair enough.
Reverse psychology going on. I like it.
Yeah.
Bengals, Baltimore.
Bengals. I mean, is Lamar even playing? Like, do we know if he's going to be back or is he just, redshirting for his contract? I mean,
even if he is, why would he,
who's he throwing to?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, honestly.
Let's see, Dallas and Tampa Bay.
Do I bet on Mike McCarthy in the playoffs and against Tom Brady? As a Packer fan, that's not a good matchup, but I mean, Cowboys are a better team. I'm going to go Cowboys. Sorry, Tom. Even though it's a home game in Tampa and everything like that.
Wow, how did Tampa Bay end up with home field advantage in that game? That's crazy.
Division winner,
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess so.
Yeah.
Okay, and then obviously on bye we have the Eagles and we have the Chiefs. So who do you have going all the way and taking home the Super Bowl?
Let's see here. They reseed in the NFL, so I got to think what my matchups are here. So it's going to be Bengals and who did we just say?
Chiefs.
Well, I think Bengals will be 3 seed, so they play the Bills, right?
Yeah, it would be the Chargers and the Chiefs in my scenario, which the Chiefs win, and then it's going to be Bengals versus Bills. Oh, that one. I want the Bills to win. They're a good story this year and everything like that, but I think the Bengals are pissed off. They're going to be playing with the chip on their shoulder. I know, heartstrings go Bills, but I might think Bengals.
That's what I went with. I think that's a solid pick.
They're the road team, and I think Bills most of the season were a better team, but I think the Bengals want this, and they were playing well before the game got canceled. So I'm going to go Bengals.
Yeah, they were confident enough they wanted to get the first kick, get their offense out there and put up some points. So
yeah, not to hop off topic, but they got completely screwed, dude. They handled that Bill situation absolutely perfect. Everything they said, everything they did in the game. And the NFL just gave them like a giant middle finger, like, oh, thanks for not crying about this. Here's a freaking coin flip. Like, I don't blame any single one of those players for being pissed.
Yeah, that celebration in the end zone where he pulled the quarter out of his glove.
Yeah.
That had me. I was like, "Oh, they're gonna get fined for that."
Maybe he'll pay part of the fine with that quarter because that would be
pay it all in quarters. $10,000 worth of quarters. Have it go to DeMar's charity. You know, chasing them's.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. They handled it right. And did they win the coin flip? Is it going to be in Cincinnati then? This game? Because it was supposed to be the Bengals Ravens game that went to coin flip, wasn't it?
I think it's in Cincinnati. I can check real quick if you want to do the next matchup here. Whatever.
So yeah, we had then you said the Cowboys were going to win, and you said that Minnesota and then San Francisco and the Eagles. So I'm not sure how those would seed out.
So that's going to be Eagles versus the Cowboys. Hurts is back. He's had like a lot of time off. Who won those other matchups? So the other one, I'm going to say the Niners. Niners over the Vikings. I just think the Niners are just too good at, you know, they've got a system, they plug in players, and they all just, it just works for them. So I think the Niners are going to make it. As far as the Eagles and the Giants, boy, I just don't know what the Giants, no, wait. Cowboys, not the Giants. Cowboys and Eagles. Let's see. The times they faced each other earlier, the Cowboys won 40-34. Eagles won 26-17.
They were against Gardner Minshew one of those times.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles are the better team. Mike McCarthy in the playoffs. It's going to be the Eagles. So then it's what? Eagles, Niners?
Yep.
I'm going to go Niners. No. Yeah. I'm going to stick with that. And then Chiefs.
Niners.
Niners, Chiefs. I know it's pretty boring because I think they faced each other a couple years ago, but I'll stick with that.
All right, and then taking home the championship. Who you got?
How do you root against him? How do you pick against Mahomes? I mean, I just think he's going to put up a pedestrian 3 touchdowns. Maybe he'll get one running. Going to win at 28-24 or something like that.
Solid.
I guess.
So who did you have, Isaiah?
I got the Bills winning it this week. All the way.
This week is impressive.
Yeah. Andy, who did you have winning?
Of course, I have the Vikings winning. How could I say anything other than that?
No homer take at all.
I think the Vikings will win easily against the Giants, and then they'll get really lucky. And I think they'll get really lucky against San Francisco, and then they'll get really lucky against the Eagles, and then they'll get really lucky against the Chiefs.
If they make it against the Chiefs, I could see that happening.
Well, they have to beat us by 2 scores. We know that. So it might happen.
Yeah. Okay.
We won a lot of games we had no business winning this year. So if that trend continues.
Yeah. If you guys match up Bills again, I mean, you guys won that one once. And where is the Super Bowl this year?
Arizona.
Doesn't help either team there.
No.
I mean, maybe San Francisco, but they're really the only ones that would have any kind of home field advantage there unless the Chargers do something.
I went with Bengals taking it all. Oh, no, sorry. Bengals making it against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And I have the Eagles taking it. So we actually had a good mix.
I want to whip a battery at you right now.
How can you say that Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Miles Sanders, and Jalen Hurts aren't going to take that team all the way? I don't know.
What has Jalen Hurts done in the playoffs before?
What do the Niners have outside? I mean, Brock Purdy, may not get you there, but like Niners are better at every position there. I don't know. AJ Brown's pretty good. Might take him over Debo, but
Yeah, that's true.
no.
I think that I like Smith over Ayuk, and then Kittle though with Purdy does look really, really good. Like that. Like he's tight end one with Brock Purdy. Like
Yeah.
right now.
And CMC over Sanders. I mean,
CMC over like Sanders and everybody else in that backfield combined.
hell, I take Elijah Mitchell over Sanders most seasons. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, we'll see if Mitchell or I'm sorry, we'll see what Sanders goes this year. He's a free agent, so interesting to see if he ends up back up or maybe he'll sign with San Francisco. Who knows?
I think the Dolphins and the Broncos sign nearly every running back available. So why not just throw another one on there?
I actually wouldn't hate that, but the Dolphins can't sign him because they're going to be, drafting Bijan Robinson this year. So obviously, actually, I don't think they have a pick early enough to make that happen.
You lost me on that one, doggy.
No.
I actually did think the Bills might be the ones trying to go in for Bijan, but who knows?
I think Bijan's going early. I think he goes top 15 first round, which is wild for running back, but he's that good.
Really?
Yes, Bijan is. They've been talking about him for years.
You guys don't think he's gonna go like top 5? Like I feel like everything is
saying like he's going early for sure.
Yeah, I feel like not quite suck for luck, but like I feel like this draft class, I've heard so much about him and a couple of the other guys, and I really feel it's hard to because I keep getting stuff confused with fantasy drafts and real drafts. So maybe I'm getting myself up here, but
so I'm trying to see like where was CMC drafted? He was drafted 8th overall, so I could see something like that happening.
I think he goes top 10, and then a team outside top 10 moves up to grab him because he's that good. Franchise altering running back.
Yeah, there's a few people out there that could use that. That's for sure.
Yeah. And unfortunately, seed and power. Probably grab him.
Some bad trades are made, myself involved. But yeah, it was crazy. I was looking at GONI's picks because he has no picks this year and no picks. He has 1 pick, I think, next year. And I was like, God, what did he trade for? And I looked at the trades he did to get Hurts and a couple of other things, and I'm like, man, he just spent all his picks. Like he knew he was only going to be here for 1 year.
Well, I was
literal definition of blowing his load for sure.
No,
he shot his wad. He shot his wad. Hurts getting hurt really like screwed him. Like no chance at that point.
Yeah, where's Angie when we need her? Could appreciate her commentary on this. But glad you made it on, Dan. We'll have to bring you on for like a full show. We've been going for almost two hours now. So
oh my god.
I looked at Andy's face today.
Is this a 2-part finale? Is this a 2-part finale that you guys have to do? Cliffhanger podcast?
Pretty much at this point. This is the reunion episode. At the end of The Office when they brought everyone back for the reunion episode. This is that. We'll have to get you on to kind of ask you like some of the questions, throughout the whole season, like what was your, strategy, draft picks, trades, stuff like that. But
talk about our Najee Harris Zeke trade.
Nah, there were a couple trades that I'm like, okay, this was my first dynasty draft, by the way, guys, and
same.
I did my worst work here. I actually I won about 25% of leagues I was in, and Angie and I just had our Survivor League final, and we were 2 of the final 3, and I wound up winning it. And it was the most stressful league I was in all year, and it was a $5 league. It was just like
is that the one she was saying a bunch of drama or something you guys were in?
Oh, we had the original commissioner of the league got voted out the first week. He threatened suicide. He wound up getting like 3 of his own accounts banned. He canceled a whole bunch of other leagues because he had like these themed leagues. I was in a Pirates versus Vampires league, and he just had like so many different leagues. And he literally was talking about committing suicide. We stole this idea from him. You're not playing it right, all this stuff. And then we got a new commissioner who was great, but then we had another 19-year-old kid who was just fucking up the team aspect. Sorry, I don't know what this show's rated.
No, you're good.
You just bumped up the rating of part 2. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. He wound up getting Angie's accounts banned. I don't know if you guys remember that drama. And get on for a couple days, like he wound up harassing her on a couple other platforms. It's just high drama league. It was so fun, the scheming and voting people off and blindside. It was great, but it was, and keeping the secret that me and Angie knew each other and found out there was actually 2 other people who were brothers.
Oh man,
and another married couple was in there. Like a lot of secrets, a lot of drama that came out at the end. So
that's cool.
And $120 purse. So fuck me. So, but yeah,
that's savage.
But it's been fun, guys. Let me know.
For sure. Well, we're gonna try to put out episodes like at least once a month, if not a couple times a month, throughout the off season. Start talking about some rookies coming up, and if there's any trades that go down or anything like that. Once we get a replacement for Team GONI 1, we will try to maybe get that person to come on the podcast and introduce themselves, and or we can all, except for that person, come on the podcast and then send them the video. Say welcome to the league.
Sure.
So one of those options would work.
That's a good way to scare off new candidates right there. This is what you're joining. Click unenroll.
Yeah, we were saying that we don't know if it's possible Joni 1 left because he didn't know we had a podcast, but then we also realized that it's possible that he left because we are having the podcast. So
right.
Much more likely it's the latter.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you so much for hopping on, and anyone tuning in, appreciate you guys as well. On behalf of That Dynasty podcast, Matthew, Isaiah, Andy, and Dan today, wish you guys a happy new year, and until next time, have a great rest of the week, and best of luck.
Bye, guys.